Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning to everybody in the room and everybody online. My name is Tracy Brown and it is 9:15-ish a.m. Central Time. That means it is time for Sunday morning Science of Mind. Take a deep breath. Let it out. And be fully present here right now, because we have some great stuff to get into this morning. Now, if you're following along at home, you know that we go through the Science of Mind textbook in sequential order, page by page, chapter by chapter. And if you are in the room, we have placed a few copies of the Science of Mind textbook around the room because several people have said, oh, I wish I had my textbook, or I wish I could look at what you're reading and talking about. So please know that they are available to you. We are going to begin on page 54. Now, the first full paragraph is where we will begin. And what we do in the Science of Mind Sunday class is we read a little bit and then we talk about it. So as I'm reading, be thinking about how that relates to your life, or what about it makes absolutely no sense at all. And if you're online, we'll ask you to put your comments in the chat. If you're on Zoom, Ryan will give you some instructions later about how we can hear your comments, because it's a conversation, not a lecture. All right, so page 54, the first full paragraph begins like this. A practitioner, side note digression, this is a lowercase practitioner. It means anyone who practices science of mind. Okay, so not the licensed practitioners who wear the stoles. Anyone who practices science of mind. Beginning that paragraph once again. A practitioner uses thought definitely and for specific purposes. And the more definitely they use the law, the more directly it responds to them. A false fact is neither person, place, nor thing to the one who uncovers it. And once uncovered, it has no place to hide. The illusion, seen and understood, is made negative in the experience of the one who suffered by it. While it is true that wrong conditions exist, they could not maintain or remain unless there were someone to experience them. Consequently, the experience must be in consciousness. Change the consciousness and the false condition will disappear. Conditions are not entities. We are entities. Cannot that which is conscious cast out that which has no consciousness? If we properly understood, we would be able to remove false conditions as easily as Jesus did. He knew, but our faith is weak. We must strengthen it, and we can. All right, there's a bunch in that paragraph. And for those of us who participate in this Sunday morning class on a regular basis, if you were watching or participating last Sunday, you know that Dr. Petra spent a big chunk of time leading up to this idea. And she really, back on the previous page, she really emphasized that first sentence of the last paragraph on page 53. We should be able to look a discordant fact in the face and deny its reality, since we know its seeming reality is borrowed from illusion. And what Ernest Holmes is now doing is he's building on that, reminding us that it is our consciousness that holds on to things that do not reflect spiritual reality. And we have the ability to shift our consciousness and then, therefore, shift our experience of whatever is going on in the physical realm. I want to repeat something that is so important in this work around this concept. We do not deny that something is happening. We do not deny that someone in their body is experiencing kidney disease and needs dialysis. We do not deny that there is discord in the form that we call a war happening between Ukraine and Russia. So we don't use positive thinking and we'll just pretend that that's not happening. That is not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is that we understand that everything that is happening in the physical is the result of consciousness expressing. And we can change our consciousness to create something different, because what's happening is the result of past consciousness. So it's a subtle difference for some things, but that is the difference. So on page 54, again, at the first full paragraph, we use our thought definitely and for specific purposes, and the more definitely we use the law, the more it responds to us. So let's give this a little more context, and then I'm going to come to you and say, do you have an example or do you have a question? So a little more context. All of this is in chapter 4, how to use it. We are in the introductory chapters, I should say, the introductory chapters that capture everything. And this is how to use the spiritual law and spiritual principle. Like, we've already looked at what it is and how it works, and now it's how do you use it. So we are Centers for Spiritual Living. So we spend a lot of time talking about how do you use it in your life. I'm going to stop there, because the next thing he does is he gives some examples, which I'll add on if I need to, but let's go to some engagement. Ryan Brown.
Hey, Tracy Brown, trying to throw me off. I'm over here changing out batteries. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm always on top of my game. It's Sunday morning, and I'm ready to go. I've had my coffee. And welcome to everybody. Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm the guy in the room. And for those online, I'm the voice in the sky. And I just want to say thank you for joining us in community today. So give yourself a little round of applause. And as Tracy mentioned, this is an engaging conversation, so we ask for your participation. And there's a couple ways that you can do that. For the folks here online, you can always raise your hand using the raise your hand icon, or feel free to put your chats inside of the comments, and I can bring those into the room. And for those here in the room, you can just raise your hand, and or myself and the iconic Richard over here will hand you a microphone, and then that way you can participate in the room here as well. And I know that you can't hear your voice amplified, but it's for the folks online so they can hear you. So please just say your name and whatever your question or comment might be. So I'm just going to poll the room here real quick. Does anybody have a question or comment? Oh, we got somebody over here.
My name's Darlene. Something I experienced 2 years ago, and I had no idea of science of mind. I was diagnosed with an immune disorder, and of course they told me, you're going to have it the rest of your life. And I knew enough about, the key to me was immune disorder. Mm-hmm. And I knew enough that I'm not even going to say what it is because it doesn't matter at this point. But where it attacked my body, I knew enough about immune disorders to know that I was believing something. I created something from thought around this area of my body. And the first thing I did was, let me go on Facebook and see who has this. Well, when I went in there and I saw everybody's issue and how this was affecting them differently, I knew it wasn't real. And so I said, that's not the place for me. And so I had to go to Washington, D.C., which is where it was being treated, from Michigan, paid for it out of my pocket. And I was like, so I went to the specialist. And I had it treated, but I said, let me think about what I was thinking about this part of my body. And needless to say, I said, I'm not accepting it. I'm just not accepting it. I didn't deny it. Now I can put it in science of mind terms. But at that point, I did not deny it because it was there. I was looking at it. And it's gone.
Does that,
Gone.
yes, it's gone?
Gone.
Okay.
And so, but every now and then, I'll say, well, is it really? Nope. Now I'm in science of mind, and I know how to speak to that.
Yeah. So I love that example so much for so many reasons, because it does pull together a lot of what's important in terms of how we use these spiritual principles and apply them in our physical experience. So a part of that piece around, well, I can't deny what's happening in my body. It actually is here. Like the lab tests show A, B, and C based on what doctors know and the statistics of thousands or millions of people. We as humanity have given this a label: cancer, dialysis, and it doesn't have to be medical, right? But we're just using a medical example right at this moment. And it's like, oh, okay, so what is it that I have contributed to this occurring? Not how did I cause it, what bad things did I do or think, but just how have I contributed to this being possible? And how has culture, the cultural consciousness, contributed to this being possible? Because it's the cultural consciousness that has named it, labeled it, decided whether we can cure it or not. All of that, right? That's not an individual consciousness. So all of that's working together, and it has manifested in this form in my body. I won't go there. Sidetrack. So So, okay, but now I have this diagnosis. What is mine to think about? What is mine to choose to do? And in Science of Mind, we believe that all resources that are available to you are provided, right? But because there's only one mind, there's only one thing happening, and so we don't have an opinion about if you choose to go to a doctor, you go to a doctor. If you choose to have surgery because you believe it will help and you've done your research. If you choose not to have surgery, okay, fine. It's your choice, it's your body. So the idea that the physical answer or response, it's not the only one. So one of the things I really love is that you described, I also looked at, like, what am I thinking? And how are my thoughts and my beliefs supporting this happening? And then we teach this. And this is what this chapter is about. Decide what you want to have instead. And start thinking about and affirming and believing that. It's not, I want this autoimmune diagnosis to go away, because you're still focused on the autoimmune. It's, wait a minute, I know my body knows how to be healthy. I know my body that every cell knows how to communicate with other cells. Beginning right now, I am creating a healthy body where all the organs and systems work together. Beginning right now and every day, I am affirming that the immune system that has been created in my body is restored and revived and is operating at full function. I am not thinking about what the doctors say is autoimmune. I am focused on this health, my health expressing in this way. Does this make any sense? And so when Ernest Holmes' first sentence says a practitioner uses thought definitely and for specific purposes, you are the one who gets to choose the purpose. And whatever purpose you choose, Spirit says, piece of cake, all right, let's go. So don't choose to focus on the disease, the divorce, the disaster, the craziness, the chaos. Because if you choose to focus on that definitely and purposefully, the universe says, okay, no problem, give you more of that. All right, Ryan, what you got?
Yes, and I see a lot of folks online just clapping their hands at a lot of the things you've been saying. Dr. Donnell, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Would you like to say hello and join the conversation?
Hey, so I am super thrilled. This is my first day joining. A colleague of mine invited me, so I'm so excited to be here. So yes, my name is Donnell. I think this brings up the importance of really defining what we consider truth. I think too often when we hear a diagnosis, what we tend to do is to identify it as who we are versus a condition that we're experiencing. So I think it's amazing that she took out time to consciously evaluate the relationship between what she was experiencing physically and the role that it was playing on her mentally.
Yeah, thanks, Donnell, and welcome, welcome, welcome. We do this every Sunday morning at 9:15 a.m. Central Time, and I love your comment, your observation. And so that is the work that we are doing when we say, how do we use these principles? Separating what is the fact of the experience we are having or the condition that exists, and separating that fact from the capital T truth. The capital T truth representing the absolute nature of God or Spirit. the spiritual principle that operates the same for anyone and everyone who uses it or lives in alignment with it. That would be truth with a capital T. It is the God qualities or the qualities of life in their most absolute and pure form. And we can experience that because in Science of Mind, what we teach is, right, that one spirit, that one energy, that one intelligence that has created all of life has created all life from itself. So if I have been created from that, all life, all of those attributes and qualities are already who I am. But in our human experience, we also have free will and choice, and we have to discover that which is already within us. So, got anybody else, Ryan?
Yes, I have a couple people online.
Yeah, let's go.
We do have a question in the chat, so I figured we'd go to that. And it asks, how do I respond to conditions that manifested as a part of the collective consciousness? Is it my own personal conscious or even unconscious thoughts separate from this consciousness? And has this been handed down by my ancestors?
Woo, come on. I love y'all. Oh, come on. That's such a great series of 5 questions in one. Woo. So let's
Rapid spitfire.
So let's start with this because it does happen a lot. What about things that are conditions that are reflection of collective consciousness? Or if you're reading Science of Mind, you may read Ernest Holmes referring to that as race consciousness, meaning the consciousness of the human race, not race like racial ethnic categories. So everything that happens is a reflection of a combination of individual and collective consciousness. So how you respond to anything that you perceive as a result or manifestation of collective consciousness is the exact same way that you respond if it is an obvious reflection of your individual consciousness. Because consciousness is cause, doesn't matter if it's collective or individual, and the way we respond to consciousness, if we want to create a new condition, is we change our consciousness and we focus on what we want and where we want to go. Now, some of you will be like, Tracy, I know what example you're getting ready to use, and that's good. That means you've heard me a lot, and don't roll your eyes, because it's just, for me, an easy example or framework to use. You might have noticed by looking at me that I am a black woman. Now, you may have wondered and you may have not wanted to label me, and that's a whole nother conversation. But if you're looking at me, you probably notice I am a black woman. There is in collective consciousness this experience, belief, and drama that has been created called racism. It's real. I mean, it's real in terms of a condition in the human experience. In my individual consciousness, I would be foolish, stupid, and other labels I won't use right at this moment if I said, I am spiritual. Racism doesn't exist. Or if I said, oh, racism can't touch me because I don't believe in it. It is not in my consciousness. That is false. That's BS, right? Because it's in the collective consciousness. There are times when I go into a store and I can notice I'm being followed. There are times when I go to do certain things, and because it has happened for so many years, so many times, I know that someone is uncomfortable with me and they do something that lets me know it is because of the color of my skin. They don't know me. They just have a story in their mind about people in the category they have put me in. What I have control over in my individual consciousness is reminding myself that no, I am a child of God, born of original blessing. I am a person who does A, B, C, and D. I have certain power of how I respond when people ignore me, mistreat me, discount me, or call me out of my name. I have the consciousness that does not allow me to let the collective consciousness define me. But it doesn't mean that I alone in my individual consciousness can make whatever is happening in the collective consciousness go away. This is why at CSLDallas and in other centers that are affiliated with Centers for Spiritual Living, that we do talk about living the science of mind and contributing not only in our individual life, but to collective consciousness in order to change the collective consciousness. If we sit and just look in our mirrors at home, then war and poverty and climate change and homophobia and racism and all the things that reflect a collective separation from spirit, if we're not actively contributing to changing the collective consciousness, then how do we expect it to change? By me sitting at home on my meditation cushion going, no. That alone, that's one part of it. So yeah, that's how we deal with what's happening in the collective and what's happening individually. They are not separate. They are inexorably connected. And we have a responsibility to work with both. I have no idea if I got to all the parts of that question.
Well, I think you summed it up very nicely.
But what else we have? We have somebody else? We have somebody on
We
Zoom?
have some folks online. I just want to poll here in the in-person audience. Anybody have a question or comment?
How is this resonating with you? What's going on in your mind?
All right. Well, I'd like to call Brenda into the room then. Brenda, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and join us?
Good morning, Dr. Tracy and Ryan and community. I truly miss being there in present. And being there in present is part of my new thought of having to take care of myself and doing what's right first. So just a brief story to emphasize your point. Many, many, many decades ago, I came from a profound trauma-shaped background. And as a result of that, I made some decisions that affected my relationship with myself and my body, and now 50-some years later, manifest as a significant new health problem that needed surgery. Okay, that information came to me in the 2-week time frame between my birthday, the death of my brother, and the death of my father's anniversaries. So I do a lot of prayer work. I work with the practitioners. I work with my study buddy. I'm in a class on self-mastery right now. And it's clear that this manifestation is a result of those prior decisions, i.e. the present is the expression of the past. And I started applying my new thought and truth on a spiritual level. I started getting prayer calls. And for my 1-week post-op checkup, I was told that the doctor said I was healing better than she ever thought that I would, having looked at the tissues. And I go, yay, wonderful, TSRW. And I call the people that are supporting me and I say that. And the very next day, I get a call from my family because it's the anniversary of my father's burial. And I start hearing about family, blah, 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 from the past. And that afternoon, my wound dehisces. And it's immediately the thought, and also that afternoon I got a call requesting some volunteer action for the church. And immediately it hit me. I shifted consciousness. I bought into the story. I bought into the I'm supposed to for everyone else. And I've spent only half a day not attending to the personal self-care necessary for my optimal healing. And so it was just like a smack in the face, literally, to say, whoa, get consciousness back on. Those past events weren't true. The decisions I made to survive were the best that I could at that time. And now I know better, and now I know the truth, and I see the linkage. And oh boy, just a brief blip of attention and focus allows the old crap, the underlying program, as we talk about, to remanifest. And it was like, oh, I just did that. Okay,
yes.
Back to self-care. Back to saying I can't come to center for another week or two until the surgeon says the wound is closed up enough to protect her surgical site. And I have to get off the family story, and I have to continue. It's not that, oh, the miracle was done. I got the prayer, the miracle's done. No, the miracle never ends. I let it go. I thought, that's it. I got my piece of pie. And now I'm coming back to the community for some more prayer and support because there's a lot more pie out there. And in that pie is perfect healing for my tissues and my bones so that I may come back with wholeness in my being to share that within community. So I just wanted to put out that not only is it change of thought, but it's maintaining that thought, it's maintaining that focus, and it's not stopping with a little miracle, but waiting for the full big completion to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. That is so rich. And I have to admit, one of the things I love so much about this community is that we know it's okay to tell our stories because not only do we learn from them, but everybody else learns from them too. And we all need those reminders. So a couple of things from that example. How beautiful it is to have that kind of tangible, quote unquote, evidence, right? Our human brain likes evidence. And so it's like, oh, I had the surgery, I was doing all my spiritual work and consciousness, staying really grounded, claiming the best, and then I go back to the surgeon and she says, wow, how could you have possibly healed that much in 1 week? Like, no one does that. You know, and then we smugly inside celebrate. We celebrate, but smugly inside, we're like, you don't have the spiritual consciousness that me and my friends have. See, it works. And for anyone who didn't catch the acronym TSRW that Brenda used, it's an acronym that we use at CSLDallas that means this stuff really works. And you can use a different word for the S if you want to. But this stuff really works, or this science of mind really works. And we use that to reinforce for ourselves that, oh, when I apply spiritual principle, my life reflects that spiritual principle. But is there anybody in the room and online? I want you to raise your hand too if this is true. Is there anybody in the room who, like me, is like, oh yeah, I'm sailing along, I'm doing really good, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, where did that thought come from? Like, oh, wait, wait, I did that work already. I went to therapy. I shouldn't be having this problem. I spent 6 months with a practitioner. That should be done. What is it? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? We didn't do anything wrong. Brenda didn't do anything wrong. What I give Brenda a big up about is that she recognized later in the same day that she hurt her family and then, quote unquote, reverted into the old belief. So, I have said this to 2 people this week, and I have said it to myself at least 5 times. When we do our work and when we are applying these spiritual principles in our human experience, the old belief does not just magically disappear. Because I've claimed a new belief and I've started affirming it. In fact, the idea that, oh, I'll just release that old family pattern. Oh, I'll just release the old belief is actually an inaccurate and maybe harmful use of our language. Because everything we've learned along the way, those patterns of behavior that worked for us when we were growing up or when we were in this relationship or when we were at that job, they're still in the brain. The brain doesn't let go of anything. What's different is we replace the false belief with the new belief. That's why we're using our consciousness directly and purposefully. That's what that means. So we're building a new belief, and if we're really emphasizing it and working on it and integrating it into who we are, it does drive our day-to-day life. And we can see it, and we're so excited. And we're telling everybody, TSRW, I got the relationship I always wanted. I got a new job, and it pays me 20% more than I even thought. I did this, I did that. My life is really unfolding beautifully. You've been there, you know. You've said all of that stuff. But then, in a time of emergency, disaster, chaos, upset, the brain goes back to find what belief matches that emotional energy. And it is right here in our thoughts, in our words, and in our actions. If you have ever had a death of someone in your family, and maybe you've got really great relationships with your family now, but then there's this death and there's a funeral, or there's a wedding and there's great joy and emotion. And you notice you're around your parents, your sisters and brothers, your cousins, people who you grew up with. I know some of you are like, yeah. And then I realized, why did that come out of my mouth? Why did I say that? Or why didn't I speak up? I would never let my friends say that around me. And it's because there is a connection in your brain of you're around these people, you're supposed to behave this kind of way. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing Science of Mind, right? When my brother died in 2007, and my 2 sisters and I were, in his hometown, and we were there for a number of days together. We have good relationships now, and we're spread out. So we didn't have bad relationships when we were growing up. But like on the second day, I'm thinking, who am I? And it wasn't anything, luckily it wasn't anything bad. There was no big drama, none of that. But there were things I was saying and ways I was behaving. And I was like, as I was going to sleep the second day and just reflecting on the day, I was like, who am I? I don't think like that. And wait, I didn't even say anything when she did or said that. And what? And then I had to remember, I have to right now affirm who I am and what I want to be and how I want to show up. Otherwise, I'm going to default into my brain or subconscious saying, this is what you're supposed to do. This is how you're supposed to feel. This is what you're supposed to think. And that applies to any and everything. Okay, I think we have time for one more comment or question.
Yes, and I think this one I'm going to kind of summarize a little bit for you because it's a heady one, and it circles back to the race consciousness theory. Okay?
Great.
It asks, can you speak about the contradictions or paradoxes in our teaching? For example, do I assume the responsibility for the consciousness of others because we are all one? So, in summary, are we affecting the race consciousness, and is the race consciousness affecting us, and how does that work?
Yes.
And we're done. Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. It's been a wonderful day. Join us later for our celebration.
The cultural consciousness is affecting each one of us individually, and each one of us is contributing to and affecting the cultural or race consciousness. There is not one and the other because there are not two. So, unfortunately, a lot of people in New Thought and metaphysics in general get stuck on the, oh, I'm responsible for my individual life and, you take care of yours. But when I do that, what I'm basically saying is I don't care about the collective consciousness, and I don't realize that I actually am contributing to it. So the people who are directly and purposefully shaping the collective consciousness and being very active about it, they are the ones that will drive more and more of what happens from the collective or within the collective. But there is no separation, and we are contributing to both. And so it's not a paradox. It's not two opposite things happening. There is one thing happening, and we are part of both and responsible for both. Now, the one little piece there that I do want to comment about that can be a little confusing is that one little phrase of, can I change someone else's consciousness? And the answer to that is absolutely not. I can influence and contribute to the collective consciousness, but I cannot make you change your mind. I cannot make you believe any specific thing because I want you to believe it. I cannot make you do, as an individual, anything, except as I contribute to the collective consciousness, which may then give you a different perspective, but you then have to choose whether you want to take on that perspective or live in that particular way. So no, I can't change any one individual's or any other person's consciousness, and it's not my job to. It's a big enough job noticing, recognizing, and managing and directing my own consciousness in a way that serves my life and contributes to a world that works for all. Ryan?
Yeah, I have a shameless self-plug here because I know we're coming at the end of the day.
Right, I'm like, I need to close.
Yes, but I do want to speak to the importance of smaller community. And so we have an opportunity that's starting right now. It's called Journey to Awakening. And what it is it's a smaller group of us. We all meet up and we go over a course of like 5-6 weeks and we practice spiritual principles together. And so right now, the opening season has started for host registration. So if you'd like to, you can do an in-person or online host. And then I think June 4th is when we kick it off for people to join the group. And then we'll walk together in spiritual practice together as a smaller community. So I just want to encourage you folks, if you're interested, there's some registrations here on person. And I've also put it in the chat for those online as well. And if you're like me and you are busy as hell every day, we also came up with an e-course from our previous version, which was called Emergence. You might remember that, right? And so we have that on spiritualclassesonline.com right now for free. And you can go and take it right now for free. You can recommend it to a friend for free.
Now, for free.
Right? And it will be a nice dovetail into the Journey for Awakening class. So we put this package together to help build our community online and in person. So I wanted to give a shameless self-plug for that because it's taken a lot of work to put it together. And it's a lovely program if you guys are interested.
And I can just reiterate and agree with Ryan. The combination of the two, the online class, and then using what we lovingly called home study groups, but they can be online, where you get to dive in a little bit deeper with just a few people. It's so helpful for really learning to apply what we teach in your life. If there's anyone who's here for the first or second time and you just want some additional information and you're in the room, we've got Kia standing right behind Ryan, and she has a welcome packet for you and can answer any questions that you have. I hope that you, whether you are here in person or online, that you will join us at the bottom of the hour at 10:30 Central Time for our Sunday celebration. A really great music planned, an interesting message. I'm sure I'm going to have an interesting message. No, we're going to have actually some fun and continue this conversation about how do we use what we teach and believe and build our own lives and the life of this community, CSL Dallas. My name is Tracy Brown. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next Sunday at 9:15 a.m. for the Sunday morning Science of Mind class.